Are you tired of repeating yourself? Are you tired of saying the same things over and over and over again? Well, today that's what we're going to be talking about. Cycles. What's causing it and how can we resolve it? Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the KimUnity Solutions Podcast, the only podcast that is talking about and inspiring leadership and humanity within and beyond the workplace. It is so good to be with you all. I am your host, Kim, the SME. As always, I am only speaking from my experiences. So let's talk about these cycles. I know it's frustrating. I know it's counterproductive. That is exactly why I want to talk about it today. It is a new year. It is a new season, and we want to start it off right? Let's get into it. First things first. Having to repeat yourself is stressful for both parties. The person who is giving the instructions, giving the directions, as well as the receiver. And so what we want to do today is talk about the experience from both lenses and how to get resolve. So the first thing is, were the expectations clear? Sometimes you can find yourselves repeating yourself the same way, the same fashion that you did previously. It's important, especially for leaders out there in the workplace, that you understand who you're speaking to. So number one, if you have a team, do you understand your team? Do you understand your team individually? It's very important that we understand our team and our team members. How do they best respond to directions? Do they prefer emails or verbal communication? What are their challenges? What are their strengths? What are their goals? Are you trying to direct them in a direction that is not their strong point? We have to know who we're working with individually. Does it seem like a lot of work? Yes. Is it? It's not a lot of work. And it's always best to do this and get this type of understanding on the front end instead of always having to repeat yourself on the back end. How were those instructions delivered? And when I'm speaking to you leaders, I'm not pushing blame on you. These are things that I want you to think about. These are the different sides of the coin that I want you to think about. Maybe this one doesn't apply to you, but another one will. But some of you are finding yourselves repeating yourself over and over again, when really you need to try it a different way. Your approach needs to change. Are you asking them if they understand afterwards? I remember being in the workplace and instructions being given to me, but I didn't understand how what I was creating was going to be relayed to someone else, if it was going to be relayed to someone else, how it was going to be used, what the benefit of it was, what they were expecting on the other end. So it's very important to make sure that your staff, your teams are fully aware of what is expected. That's how you get the best benefit. Now, I know there's some of you out there that are just saying, I just want you to do what you're told. Yes, but see, that's why you are finding yourself in this repetitive cycle, is because the other person, depending on the personality type, needs to understand the entire flow of the information. By you just explaining what you need and not explaining what the outcome is going to be used for, they don't have that full visual of what you're expecting and why. They could be even trying to improve upon what you're asking for. They could be trying to go above and beyond, but those steps that they're doing is counterintuitive to what you actually need as the end result. So number one, it's very important to be clear about your expectations, not just on the front end, but the end result. Also, it's important to understand who you're speaking to. And do they clearly understand? Can they repeat back to you exactly what you're looking for? Number two, are your instructions implied or explicit? And when I say that, I'm asking, are you generalizing the conversation? Are you saying what I would like instead of this is what I need? This is what I expect. This is what the end result should look like. Are you speaking to an entire team when really you need to be specific to an individual? This is something that happens quite frequently. This even happens in households. I'm sure you can remember when you were a child. Now, I can't because I'm an only child. I didn't have siblings. But let's say you have 3 children and someone was coloring on the wall. They had markers all over the wall. And you know exactly who did it. But instead of talking to that one person, you are chastising all 3 children. Well, number one, that's not fair to the other 2. And in order to prevent that same behavior, you really need to speak specifically to the person in charge of that, to the person responsible for that occurrence, for that assignment, for that error, for that omission. Are you speaking directly to the person who needs to hear it? Do they understand that you are speaking directly to them? Or is it vague? They need you, your team, your staff, your frontline employees. They need you to be specific. They want you to hold those people accountable, whoever is responsible. So let's make sure that we're doing that. These are just things that we can keep in mind as far as preventing the cyclical patterns. Okay, we want to increase productivity. We want to increase profitability. We want to make sure the employee morale is lifted. So these are all steps that benefits the outcome as well as the culture and your team. Another reason why you may be finding yourself in a repetitive cycle is because you haven't addressed competing responsibilities. So if something else is due at that same deadline, which one should be coming first? Which one are they prioritizing? So it's important to communicate with your team and also make sure that they understand that you welcome questions. Making sure that they understand that it's okay to come to you if they have questions, if they're unsure, if they're unclear. Otherwise, it's a done deal. You're going to keep going in circles because they don't feel comfortable. They don't feel comfortable asking for clarity. I want us to think about, okay, am I contributing to the challenges we're facing? Is there something I could be doing better? As you're giving instructions and directions, always ask for their insight. Okay, is there something else competing with this deadline? Is there something preventing you from completing this task? I remember being expected to have a report due by a certain time frame, but leadership did not understand that the data was not complete yet. I haven't even received the data in order to compile it. I was in the accounting field. Certain things have to take place before I can complete my task. Certain numbers have to be finalized. Because what you don't want is a report that is inaccurate. That's not what you want. So it's always important to make sure, okay, are there any other conflicting timelines, deadlines, flow of information, flow of data? Are there system challenges? That's also why I help businesses with their process documentation. Because frustrations can also come from process inefficiencies. There's no structure. There's no written documentation. There's no instruction. Steps have to be assumed every month. every week or whenever this one-off occurrence transpires? Are we addressing the root causes of these challenges? Something else to think about. Maybe your instructions are clear. Maybe you've given great detailed instructions. You've laid out the expectations clearly. But for some reason, your team is disengaged. What is that underlying factor? What has transpired? Are you asking them to do something that you yourself are not following or is perceived to not be following? Yes, you can say, do as I say, not as I do, but that does not resolve the challenges. And what happens is these types of leaders are so quick to want to terminate this employee, right? But then they hire someone else, which is more expenses in training and lack of productivity because there is that growth stage. And then you see that same pattern again because the root problem has not been addressed. I just want to help. I am here to help. I am here to talk about the experiences that I had in corporate and how we can prevent it, how we can benefit the business, how we can meet our mission, our customers' expectations, actually go above and beyond our customers' expectations and be profitable. Another reason why you keep finding yourself in these cycles is because your feedback is not timely. How long are you waiting before you address the issue? How much time is going between the time it's noticed and the time it's addressed? When there's a delay in that response, you're not able to capture the full reason because that employee may have forgotten all the details that explained that delay, explained that incompetency, explained that inaccuracy. So it's important to be timely when you see that there's room for improvement and correction. Now, I can recall being timely. What I do when I'm giving instruction, I really, especially when they're new hires, I really try to understand, okay, what do you prefer? What is the best way for me to communicate? This is my style. I explain what my style is, and then I learn what they need. And this one person in particular, and I've spoken about this on a different podcast, is that I had written out procedures. There were written SOPs already. I would first sit down and train them side by side. I would go through it. I had the written instructions, and then I would ask them also to take notes. And then the next time, I would let them take charge, and they would go through it. And if your processes are truly complete, it should be easy to follow. And what I found that every single month, and in accounting, there's always cycles, but every single month, I would get his work back to approve it, and it would have the same error. And month after month, I kept asking him, okay, this is what we explained. This is what is expected. This is why. This is what your work is causing confusion with. This is why it's incorrect. He would say he understood. He would say he would fix it. I asked him to make a note of it. Put it in your calendar if you have to. And it still continued the next month. And I really had to sit down and ask him, what we've done it verbally. I've had you do it yourself. I've asked you to take notes. I've asked you to voice record. You have Post-its all over your computer. What is the problem? And come to find out, his response was, I can't read my own writing. You can't read your own writing. You can't read what I've written. You're not following directions. You're not listening to your voice memo. I mean, there's so many, and that goes into a whole different HR aspect, which I don't speak upon. But my point is, you have to understand your team. You have to ask questions. Otherwise, you will have these repetitive cycles. Are there repercussions? Do you find yourself continuing these same cycles because you don't have anything to back it up? In some workplaces, in some teams, there may be someone who is discreetly refusing, I'll put it like that, discreetly refusing to follow your directions so that that work can be passed on to someone else. And because there's a tight deadline, all leadership is doing is asking someone else to complete that task. Number one, that is so frustrating for your most productive, for your top talent employees, because they already have a lot on their plate. Most of the time, they have more than everyone else on their plate. And because they are responsible, because could be just in their nature, right? That's just the type of person they are, is to complete whatever's been given to them. And maybe they even respect you. And that's why they're going above and beyond. But it also creates this negative layer of resentment of, I can't take this anymore, of when are you going to address this bad apple? When do you see he's not contributing to this team? Why do I always have to pick up the slack and they get to slack? This is what your team is thinking about. Yes, they're getting the work done, but there's different layers under there. Yes, they're getting the work done, but that day that they call off, they are looking for another job. They are going on interviews. You are pushing them out of the door and you are keeping that bad apple. So we have to be mindful of the decisions we're making and our approach. Yes, there is a timeline, but that is when they need to stay and get the work done. I champion teams. I champion frontline staff. But I'm also, I also mean business. I'm also expecting productivity. I'm also expecting excellence. I'm also expecting teamwork. I'm also expecting innovation. I am also accepting ownership and accountability because I know what it's like on that other side. As leaders, you have to sometimes step out of your own shoes and think about your team. Think about those poor performers. Think about the weight that they are putting on the rest of your team. And let's not think that other departments don't notice that. Rest assured that if this has been continuing, I don't want to say rumors, but if it is seen and there is a reputation that is being created, that is why it is so hard to fill positions in your department. That is why when vacancies are in other departments are open, nobody internally applies. Only external applicants are interviewing because the people inside know and they don't want any parts of it. They don't want any parts of it. So let's be cognizant of the decisions we're making and how it is impacting our teams, our culture, our productivity, and our actual business and profitability. I'm telling you all this in a helpful nature. Again, this is not about blame. I'm not saying you're failing. I'm saying, hey, be mindful of this. Watch out for this because I want you to succeed. I want your teams to succeed. This is not about failure. This is about misalignment. There's a disconnect. There's a disconnect. There's a need. There's an expectation, but it's not measuring up. And so all I'm doing is referring to the pieces that says, hey, maybe this is the part that needs to be addressed. And then we're in alignment. Maybe this is the challenge your team is facing. Maybe this is something that they are looking for you to fix. Maybe this is something they need to improve. Maybe you need to approach it in a different way. So I don't want you to think about this is about you failing or I'm blaming you for anything. I'm saying, hey, keep this in mind. Are you doing this? This may be beneficial to you. Your team will work harder for you if you take these items into consideration. Because that's what all leaders want. They want to look good. They want their teams to support them. You don't want to have to beg them to stay late to get their job done. No. A true leader is encouraging new leaders. They are encouraging leadership. They want someone who champions their work. As frontline staff, as a contributor to the work, I know my name is on it. It is my name and the date I completed on it, and I want it to look good. I take full ownership of it. If I make a mistake, I'm going back to find out, okay, where did I go wrong? How could this have been prevented? Do I need to make a side note on this? How can I remember this in the future? That is what your top talent is doing. Because again, everyone's going to make mistakes. We already know that. But how many times is it going to be repeated? It should be improved upon. There should be process improvements in place. Let's all win. And also, approach matters. Approach matters. How are you calling them out? Are you embarrassing them? Again, are you calling them out as a team, or are you speaking to the person who is responsible? What is your tone like? What is their perception of it? These are all factors of why we find ourselves in cycles that we wish were resolved. I've given you at least 10. I believe it's more than that, but I've given you at least 10 for you to think about. Making sure you're clear. Making sure you're direct and not implied. Making sure that you are expecting of them what they expect of you. Making sure there's repercussions. Making sure that all the work is not pushed off on someone else. There's accountability. Maybe a reminder is needed. Do you understand your team and how they function and how they're most productive and what their learning style is and what their interests are? They may be poor in one area, but will excel in the other. Are there, instead of passing off workload to someone else, maybe there's an exchange that needs to be made. Maybe they're better on the phones. They have the gift of gab. They want to talk more. Where did you find yourself in this conversation? Is there something that you can improve upon? Is there something tomorrow that you can go in the office and say, okay, this applies to me? Kim spoke about that. I just heard that. What is it that I spoke about that maybe you said, I never thought about that. I wonder if my team thinks that of me. I wonder if my team needs that. Maybe you're having more meetings that are unproductive, that a simple email would be more beneficial. Maybe if you sent an email out instead of having a 30-minute meeting about it, you would see better results. Do they have the right tools? Are you requesting something that is out of their capacity? Do they have the right training? How are you adding to them? Are they making use of the resources they already have? Maybe you've already given it to them. Maybe there's already a full drive of resources that they need to review again. So just let's make sure that we are utilizing the information that we already have, make sure that we are understanding the people we are working with, and that they understand the expectations of that particular task and that they are held accountable. I hope this has been helpful. I hope I've mentioned something that has sparked something in you to say, okay, I can work in that area. These other areas I have under control. This other area I could probably try out. Put in the chat, put in the comments, what's something that your team believes you could work on? And what's something that you're great at? What's something your team says, no, my manager, my supervisor, my leader, they are exceptional at this. Write that in the comments. I know everyone doesn't want to point out something that they can work on. But if you don't feel like typing in something that you can work on, comment on something you believe your team says you excel at and why you believe that. I am your host, Kim the SME. You have been listening to the KimUnity Solutions podcast. I am so glad that you have joined me. If you really want to start your year off right, if you want your team more engaged, more accountable, and you want to be able to retain your top talent, but you want to work on your communication with them. You want them to know that you care. You want them to know that you want them to excel. I have some conversation cards that would work great for you and your team. What happens is we spend so much time at work and we're only talking about measurements and statistics and goals and KPIs, your key performance indicators, and evaluations, that we forget we're working with humans. We forget to take them into consideration. We ask them how their weekend was, but by the time they say it, you didn't even fully hear what they said. You don't remember what they said. You don't follow up with what they said. These conversation cards helps move from those surface level conversations into more meaningful conversations. They're great icebreakers. You can use them at the beginning of your meeting just to lighten up everything. Because your team is so used to you coming in there just throwing out directions and instructions and do's and don'ts. Maybe they want to hear something different from you. Maybe you want to learn more about your team. Maybe you have introverts on your team who don't want to share what they did on the weekend. But if you ask them something general, they would share. They would open up a little bit, and that builds trust. When you have trust, you have progress. They feel that they can open up to you and communicate with you and bring you innovative ideas without you shutting them away, without it just being rhetoric of, yes, I have an open door policy, but that's it. It's just open. Nothing stays in. Nothing is confidential. Nothing is acted upon. Nothing is taken seriously. Nothing is taken in consideration. When you are working with people, you are not working with robots. Check out these conversation cards. They're called questions and perspectives, because none of us have the perfect answer, but we all have different perspectives. And collectively, we can create unifying solutions. I will have the link down below. It's been great. You all have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.